Thomas. I don't have a song, but before I worked in the public sector, I was an artist, a poet, writer. So I definitely appreciate the burst of creativity in the morning. What I'm here to speak to today. Welcome to New York first. New York's an awesome city, like this conference. And I'm going to give you really an overview of the work that I do at the city's Economic Development Corporation, why we're essentially a pillar to how the city has transformed into a tremendous tech ecosystem, and then just talk about kind of where the future of New York City is headed and really why you should be a part of that. So EDC, which is how we refer to the Economic Development Corporation, we're a 500-person, $850 million corporation that manages the city's a portfolio of assets that are public owned. We build infrastructure, like if you look down, you'll see the High Line. Our corporation oversaw the construction of that. And we take the revenue that we actually generate and reinvest that to grow the city's economy across all the different sectors where we really want New York to have a long-term advantage. I lead our partnerships team that was established at the end of 2016, and we manage kind of traditional corporate attraction efforts, and then manage our international portfolio of partners and our strategic relationships with conferences like the one we are at today. How we can help you, whether you're an investor, whether you're an incubator, whether you're a company that's trying to expand, we can actually help aid you in that process. We can introduce you to partners that we think may be relevant to the success of your business. We can also provide just kind of general thought leadership and support, and potentially, depending on what you actually want to do in New York City, you could be eligible for tax incentives or investments from our corporation. So now, explaining how New York became a tech ecosystem. This picture says more than I can say. In 2008, 2009, the city, like the rest of the country and the world, was really in free fall. New York was heavily dependent at that time on Wall Street, media, a few kind of core sectors. And under Michael Bloomberg, there was a real push to say, okay, how do we diversify New York City? There was no guarantee that New York would be where it is today. And I think anyone who was living here then, I mean, we had rent parties, we had people who were going away all the time because they were losing their jobs, that the city made a very concerted effort to identify areas where the assets could really facilitate new sectors evolving. EDC was really designated as the lead city entity to drive what that transformation would look like. And in 2010, established a Center for Economic Transformation that then expanded our traditional work in real estate and infrastructure development to include industry growth, economic diversification, and other areas that would really advance the city. And so for that period of time, they launched more than 60 different programs across fashion, resiliency, smart cities, health, to really spur and protect existing sectors, but also really laid the groundwork for the early incubators that were established in New York City, and the early data science programs at our institutions that could create the basic pillars for a thriving tech sector. You combine that work with a great ecosystem of think tanks and research organizations that were really challenging the city to invest in new areas, identify new job opportunities, plus the universities and a larger ecosystem of people who were all committed to really make sure that New York could really be innovative and stay at the forefront of major cities in the world. And those ingredients combined created the right pillars for a successful tech city. So why should you be in New York? Why should you be investing in New York? In addition to this being awesome, New York does have key things that make it well positioned for companies, incubators, and others to really have a presence here. We have 47 Fortune 500 companies that are based here. We have over 100 universities. A lot of you may know Columbia, NYU, CUNY, but across the board, pretty much any specialty that you want to have a partnership with or have some type of academic collaboration, New York has that within our 5 boroughs. For those who are in the health, life sciences, or even cybersecurity space. We have over 100 different medical research institutions in the city, and really spearheaded by the United Nations having a presence here. We have over 115 different diplomatic missions who are supporting the expansion of trade and international startups in New York. And so that actually gives our ecosystem a very different edge from other places. And for those who are familiar with how things work in the city, you know that's really core to why people like being here. So this snapshot comes from a report published by Startup Genome, which rated New York City as the #2 tech ecosystem in the world. And a lot of that is driven by not only just our VC investments, which are only topped by Silicon Valley, but just the greater success of the amount of companies that are being formed here and all the activity combined. We have the third most valuable ecosystem when you actually look at the total VC funding, valuation of our companies, and overall investment in the world. And 22% of the startups in business here have active foreign exports. In total, we have more than 7,000 startups in New York City, and that ranges across all sectors. And we have over 125 different incubators that have set up some type of operation here in the city. There are more than 200 different VCs and angel investments firms in the city of New York. And there are 20 different international accelerators that have operations supporting foreign companies expanding into New York. We have over 100 conferences a year that are major, including now Accelerator Awesome. And there are 20 different universities that aren't based in New York that also have satellite campuses, most recently MIT setting up their startup studio at the Cornell Technion campus. So what does this all mean as far as if you want to do something new in New York? As I mentioned, we can really provide support if you choose to expand, if you want to hire additional staff. And we have a whole slate of different opportunities that exist depending on kind of what needs you have that we can talk through to see how we can support that effort. New York's not done. And so last year we mapped out how our investments would spur an additional 100,000 jobs across really 5 core areas, 4 of those being sectors that have the right kind of steam to continue to innovate and grow. And those 4 are just kind of general tech, life sciences and health, industrial manufacturing, and then all the different creative sectors. The other thing that we'll be investing in as part of that plan is to advance commercial development across the 5 boroughs, which will create more affordable options for different companies to expand. So in the tech sector, our largest announcement that we made over the last year is a $30 million investment to create a cyber hub for New York City. With all the major companies here, all the major health institutions, New York has a lot of the right customers for cybersecurity. We don't really have a gravitational pull for where cyber is based here. And so we put out an RFP and we'll actually announce who the recipient and the leader of that cyber hub will be later this year. Other areas that we'll be focused on is really strengthening businesses and partnerships across boundaries. In light of a lot of the uncertainty that you see on the national level around trade, we're trying to make sure that people know New York City is open for business, that we do not want to descend down the list of tech ecosystems, that we want to continue to be open for tech companies that are coming here. And then attracting more enterprise tech companies that can really be clients to a lot of the startups that want to grow in the city. Manufacturing is not dead in New York. We have, as a major part of our portfolio, assets that are within our within our real estate portfolio that we're investing in to ensure that we can provide support and an affordable space for companies that want to build and do more innovative production in the city. We'll also be incentivizing the construction of greater access, lab space, other areas so that people can produce and do research in the city, and building out investments across freight and logistics, knowing that e-commerce continues to be a major thriving part of where we see tech and logistics tech going. Life sciences, about 2 years ago, we announced that we're investing as a city over $500 million to grow life sciences and health. New York has kind of all the right ingredients to have a vibrant life sciences sector, but we're still not as known as a life sciences hub the way Boston, San Diego, Silicon Valley are. And so we're investing pretty big, really replicating the Cornell Technion model for life sciences and establishing a center of gravity for that sector as well. You'll see that announcement sometime soon. And really building out additional space for life sciences and health startups to grow, do research, and expand in New York. Across all the creative sectors, we're building the first publicly financed virtual reality lab that will be opening at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And we're exploring blockchain and other key areas where we think the city really should have a stamp that we can be a world leader. So that concludes my presentation. I'd love to take a few questions if we have time.
Hi, Marcos Dinnerstein. I had been the editor of Digital.nyc, and I saw the Made in New York logo put up there and wanted to know what happened to that program. It doesn't seem to be particularly active for startups, and wondered whether the EDC or any other branch of city government had plans to kind of revitalize it.
Okay. Yeah, so that is still an active program. That was really featured under the programs that were established about 8 years ago. With Made in New York, that program is really designed for companies that are building a specific product in the city. We'll be launching a Made in New York Center in Sunset Park that will be really a home for fashion, film production. And you'll see that will be probably the biggest manifestation of those startups that are in the 3D printing film space. Yeah. Any other quick questions?
Hi, Tony Slur, Akathon Capital. So how does the EDC really want to work with accelerators, whether they're from New York, whether they're coming from other places? What's that process look like? And what are you looking for, too?
Well, so that evolves really on what the market gaps are. And a lot of our investments are, where is the private sector not moving, or where do we need a boost to make sure New York is like a hub? And so, whereas 10 years ago, we needed a General Assembly, we needed a Flatiron School, and that required some public subsidy to get that started. Now you have so much activity happening that you can have a conference of international accelerators. So we don't necessarily need to fund just kind of general accelerators. Now in those specific areas where we want to see activity like virtual reality, cybersecurity, life sciences, we'll be making those additional investments to spur that type of activity. Where we can support accelerators now, and we've actually been in good conversation with pretty much a lot of the major players, is helping you all connect with potential partners, helping attract companies that may want to set up operations within your spaces, and really ensuring that the network that you all are part of the larger community of people who could then further advance your work.
Hey everyone, good morning. I'm Faith Legendre from Cisco Systems, and I'm passionate about the circular economy. So I'm just wondering how you're advising and including circularity into all of your plans.
Okay. So we actually have a team studying it. We haven't announced yet any initiative tied to it. I'd love to take your card though and include you in that exploration process. I mean, we're also studying artificial intelligence. We're looking at a lot of areas where we see the city needs to make some significant investment. And so that once that process concludes, that's when you see like $30 million announcement type things.
Thank you so much, Tobias Stoß, European American Business Organization. How much you are going to support startups from abroad here in New York City, or is their main focus primarily on US startups?
So I oversee a lot of our business development opportunities. The majority of the inbound we have are from international startups. I think we have a greater shot at attracting, and this is my intuition, we have a better shot of attracting startups from London or Cape Town or Tokyo than we do from Seattle or from Chicago. And so a lot of the infrastructure we're building will support kind of the easy expansion of those types of businesses. Yes. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of detail on kind of where we incentivize that I think would be valuable for you all to have.
Hi. My name's Daryl. I am a little bit of an outsider here. I'm a photographer, but we're really interested in seeing how much you all are prioritizing like the next generation of participants in this sector, particularly minority and women-owned businesses, and what are the entry points for us to participate?
Okay. So there are a couple of major areas. On the talent development side, we co-lead an academic council of the Tech Talent Pipeline, which is the city's commitment to ensure every student has access to computer science and that there are targeted programs that we can further advance the talent across where we see sectors evolving. And that is really targeted within disadvantaged populations. On the inclusive tech side, we're really trying, whereas before a lot of our efforts really focus on just kind of getting tech up and going, now we can be very specific that we want to see inclusion across cyber. We want to see more internship opportunities in life sciences. And so we're pretty much across all of our initiatives, we're building in that effort so that we can really see a more diverse ecosystem. And I think New York has the best shot in a way that Silicon Valley hasn't been able to, of really transforming its diverse population into a diverse tech population. And that's something we're focused on the talent development side and in steering our investments to do so.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. That was an amazing overview, and I'm sure we already know New York is an amazing tech ecosystem already, but we applaud Mark for providing pretty much the stats and the data in terms of the ingredients that make New York City great for Accelerator